Welcome to 13 Degrees of Screams,
where we scream so you don't scream.
We're your host, Alex.
And Stephanie.
This week, we gain a disturbing family legacy in Hereditary.
Before we get started, make sure you subscribe and click the bell to be notified when we post new episodes.
Hereditary is a 2018 American supernatural psychological horror drama film written and directed by Aster in his feature directorial debut. The film follows a grieving family tormented by sinister occurrences after the death of their secretive grandmother. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 90% with a critical consensus that states, Hereditary uses its classic setup as the framework for a harrowing, uncommonly unsettling horror film whose cold touch lingers long beyond the closing credits. It also has a 71% audience score.
Miniature artist Annie Graham lives in northern Utah with her husband Steve, a psychiatrist, and their two children, 16-year-old Peter and 13-year-old Charlie. When Annie's secretive mother Ellen dies, the family attends her funeral, and Annie is surprised by the large turnout.
She later goes alone to a grief support group where she talks about her troubled childhood and distant relationship with her mother, which only improved when Charlie was born and Ellen took an active role in raising her. Seeing as Charlie is currently the strangest kid ever, I suspect that was not a good idea. Steve receives a call informing him that Ellen's grave has been desecrated, but he decides not to tell Annie because this will definitely not come back to bite him later in the film.
Peter is invited to a party, and Annie insists he take Charlie along. At the party, Peter leaves Charlie on her own while he smokes marijuana. Since Charlie is a dramatic attention seeker, she eats cake that obviously has a lot of nuts, which triggers a severe allergic reaction.
On the way to the hospital, Charlie sticks her head out of the window to breathe. Peter swerves to avoid a dead deer in the road, and Charlie is decapitated by a telephone pole. Holy shit, I'm sorry, what?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Traumatized, Peter drives home and leaves her body in the car, because I guess he was real tired and was just going to clean that up the next day. The next morning, Annie finds Charlie's corpse and is kind of sad.
No, I can't. I just want to die.
Following the funeral, the family falls apart. Peter isolates himself, consumed by guilt. Annie becomes cold and resentful toward him, while Steve, the only normal one, tries to keep the family from unraveling.
Annie befriends Joan, a woman from her support group, who introduces her to spiritualism and shows her how to perform a seance to contact Charlie. Nothing bad could possibly happen because of this. Not at all. Annie later persuades Steve and Peter to join her in a seance, which quickly turns frightening when Annie appears to be possessed and speaks in Charlie's voice. Steve stops the seance by dousing her with water.
Peter begins experiencing disturbing supernatural events. Annie becomes convinced that Charlie's spirit is hostile, and Charlie's sketchbook starts depicting disturbing images of Peter. Annie tries to destroy it in the fireplace, but her own clothes catch fire in response. The flames only subside when she puts out the fire on the book. Don't worry, this will definitely be explained in full detail later in the film.
Digging through her mother's old possessions, Annie finds photos and books revealing that Ellen led a cult and that Joan was involved as well. Because what else are you supposed to do after retirement, you know?
This girl is the nastiest skank bitch I've ever met. Do not trust her. She is a fugly slut.
One of the books describes a demon named Payman, who seeks a male host and rewards his summoners with riches. Annie also discovers Ellen's decapitated, decomposing body in the attic, surrounded by occult symbols. Just call it Chekhov's corpse at this point.
At Peter's school, Joan attempts to drive his spirit from his body to make way for Payman. Excuse me, ma'am, that's Peter's body.
Go on, get out of here! Come on, go!
Peter later suffers a violent episode in class, smashing his face against his desk. Annie tells Steve that they must burn the sketchbook to end the haunting, but when he refuses, thinking she's having a breakdown, she throws the book into the fire herself. This results in Steve being instantly engulfed in flames and killed. Why not? Annie, now fully possessed, becomes eerily calm. It all makes sense, see? I told you.
That night, Peter wakes up to find Steve's burnt corpse and a naked cult member in the house. Annie, now controlled by the demonic force, chases him through the house after playing a fun little game of hide and seek.
Peter hides in the attic where he witnesses Annie gruesomely decapitating herself with piano wire, because if it's one thing this family is not allowed to have, it's their head. From the attic and passes out. A glowing light enters his body, reviving him. It's a miracle!
Peter, now displaying Charlie's behaviors, follows Annie's floating headless body into the treehouse. I'm sorry, what? Inside, cult members, including the headless corpses of his grandmother and mother, kneel around a mannequin crowned with Charlie's severed head.
How are things in the underworld?
Well, they're just fine. You know, a little dark, a little gloomy, and as always, hey, full of dead people. What are you going to do?
Joan places the crown on Peter and addresses him as Charlie, explaining that the coven has given Payman his proper male host. The cult hails Peter as King Payman while he silently looks on. Congratulations, it's a boy? I don't know.
Are you ready to talk about our ratings?
Yeah, let's do it.
What did you give plot?
I gave plot a 3. I found the whole movie incredibly unsettling. I actually walked out on my first viewing after Charlie's death because the intensity and secondhand guilt of Peter being the cause of her death really got to me. Since I knew it was coming this time around, I felt a little more prepared to handle it, but I don't think there would ever be a point where I could watch this movie without knowing what happened beforehand. It really just sent me into a panic, which I think speaks volumes for the piece on its own.
Okay.
How about you?
I gave it a 2. I said the first 80% of this film is extremely interesting and I was invested in the mystery. However, I feel the movie completely fumbles the bag at the end. What built to something incredibly unsettling, horrifying, and dismal fizzles out and becomes somewhat silly.
Like at the point where he sees the naked guy in the house?
Okay, I know I've talked about this 1,000,001 times, but I don't care about hail demon, hail Satan, hail. I was so disappointed when we found out it was a fucking cult hailing a demon. I know it's not the devil, but you could basically just
might
swap
as well
out.
happen. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, this was like such a unique journey to get here, and we fell on cult. I'm like,
yeah.
And
I guess
then-
they could have chosen something a little different, but
I think where this movie shines are the family aspects. The scene where Annie's just like tearing into Peter at dinner. Like, those are the best parts, and it becomes too paranormal. Like, when her headless body flies, I literally like laughed out loud. I'm like, come on. Or like when she's banging her head, it's unsettling still, but like the lead up to that, it just felt like we're just going to throw everything at the wall. Like, okay, I threw the book into the fire. Why does he burn now? Or like,
right.
these things that like I don't necessarily need everything explained, because I do understand like what happened in the movie, but it just ramped up to something I wasn't expecting and something I ultimately became disappointed in. Because like when Charlie's head's decapitated, I think that's like the pinnacle of this movie. Like that was not expecting that at all. Like I was,
because they killed off a child too. Like,
Yeah.
that was also what bothered me so much. I'm like, you're not supposed to do that. Like,
yeah, I
even
saw
if
this
she
in-
is creepy, you don't kill the kid. Like,
right. I saw this in theaters, and my jaw hit the floor. Like I was
Yeah.
just shocked. And I think building up really up until where we find out Joan was like in on it, I was just like, I feel like we're unraveling here.
Mhm.
Because like the rest of it's so good, and I just felt
Yeah.
like the ending, I'm like, this is just not as interesting or special as the rest of the movie, I felt.
That's fair. I do see those little aspects too, because like obviously I didn't finish it the first time I watched it. So, but I did like look up a review because I was like, how did it end? Just tell me. And I figured with the mom cutting off her own head with piano wire, it would be so disturbing. And I'm like, still not as bad as Charlie losing her head.
Exactly.
I don't know. I was like, on paper, that sounds terrifying. And I was like really trying to like prepare myself for it. I was like, this is going to be really bad. No. At
Yeah.
that point, it's just so weird. Like,
Yeah, her body's like floating there, and she's like, falling off
like
her head.
flossing it.
And I'm like, I feel like this is meant to be like shocking and like, oh my God. But I was just like, girl, what is happening? This is like gone off the rails this last like 20 minutes. It's like, it feels so much more interesting in the slow burn moments and the quieter moments. And
yes.
that, I just feel like
the grief too, like right after Charlie's death, like
One-
that's horrible to sit into. Like,
the wailing, like Toni Collette
yes.
did a great job. Like,
She did.
It was just crazy. And those are the like the scarier moments to me. Like I was like, okay, I'm not shocked by I've seen way worse. This is not shocking. We didn't need to go this way. So the majority of the movie is still scary, but I just by the end I'm just like, I wish I could just cut it off before we get to
that point.
There, yeah. Then I would have given it a 3 for sure.
Also, did you find Joan's character like way too like aggressive and being like Toni Collette's friend? I was like, this would be like, I have to, I guess, give her like the benefit of the doubt that she's like in this terrible place. So, she needs whatever comfort she can get. But Joan is like so much. Like she stops her car to start talking to her the first time, and I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah, I cannot think of it.
Not what I'm gonna need from you here.
Right. I cannot think of an instance of someone I just becoming friends with do that. Like I'm like, what do you want? Like that's red flag. Red flag. Right. Like go away, lady. I know you're like maybe you could think like, oh, she's just really nice and trying to be helpful, but that's not realistic.
No, she seems so desperate too. Like even when she shows her the seance stuff, she kind of like brands it as like, no, we're going to talk to my grandson. And then if you want to try it, you can. But then she's like desperately trying to be like, remember, if you want to contact Charlie before you leave, got to do it together. Got to do it as a family with your son.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I thought it was just to show me that you could contact your grandson. And if I want to do what I want to do, I'll come and tell you.
Right. And then like realistically, like think about it. Like if you were Annie, series of events, your mom just died. Your daughter just died. All of a sudden, this woman just like, oh, look what I just learned. Just so it happened when your family died. Like,
right. Let me show you DIY seance. Like,
and I know it's framed because she's like, oh, I just lost my grandson X months ago. So like, I could see where that could kind of, okay, well, she's going through a similar instance. So we're in the same boat kind of a thing. But I'm like, this is too coincidental. Yeah.
What did you have for suspense?
I gave it a 2. I said, I think Hereditary has pockets of suspense, really peaking when Charlie gets beheaded or when Charlie/Payman is summoned in the Graham home. But I would say overall Hereditary has more slow burn moments, which is not a bad thing at all.
Yeah, I see that. I had a 2. The suspense ebbs and flows between these terrible grief-stricken moments to something traumatic. I do feel like they held on some of the suspenseful moments a little too long, where I was waiting and waiting. Then we'd look at something else and come back to it a second time, like, okay, now something terrible is going to happen. Are you ready?
Yeah.
It became a predictable pattern. I'm sure it was another analogy for grief, but just something I didn't personally care for.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't find this. I mean, I gave it a 2 because I think there are stretches of like what's in the corner, because you start like seeing things happening. Like when you see at one point Peter sees Charlie in the corner, and you're like, what's going to happen? And her head just like falls off, and it's a ball.
Yeah.
So there's like instances you're like something might jump out, but like not a ton of that ends up happening.
Yeah, after like the first couple times, because like Annie sees her mom in the shadows like a bunch of times, and once you kind of figure out that they're not going to jump at you, you're like, oh, well, I guess they're just seeing them.
Yeah. Or like when you see all or you see all the naked people, you're just like,
that's more unsettling. Like,
yeah,
get out of my house, stranger. Yeah. Like, I see your penis. Please stop. Like,
I see your willy. Please stop. I was going to put in the plot.
And he's just smiling like...
They're all so very happy to be here. They're like, look at my bits.
Like, I finally understand too, like when I've watched reviews and people add clips of the movie too, like why you don't see a lot of the treehouse scene, because everyone's naked. Like,
yeah, I was like, why do we have to be naked? Like, we could do rituals with clothes on, I think.
Yeah.
Just overall, I think also just with the grief is so prolonged that I don't necessarily know that it's meant to be so suspenseful. You're just meant to sit in that grief for a long time and just see these scenes of like, like when Charlie gets decapitated, it's just like prolongs on his face. So like in shock and realization, or like when Annie's crying, you're just like, you linger on these scenes a lot. So
Yeah, those didn't bother me because, like, I understand, like, let's feel the impact
Yeah.
of what just happened. But, like, specifically with the fire and the book situation, like, Annie puts the book in the flames and then catches fire. And then I was like, and now we're going to do an escalation. No, we didn't. We cut away from it. She puts it out. It's fine. Then we come back to it and I'm like, okay, this is when the bad thing's going to happen because we've already kind of set it up.
Yeah, we established, like, you put that book in there, something's going to happen.
Yeah.
It wasn't her. It was her husband catching strays, but okay. I was like, what?
Poor Steve. He was doing the most. He was like, you guys are all crazy. Like, he's drinking at work and just trying to hold it together. He's like, I don't want to add any more to this.
Yeah. Well, this is a whole nother conversation. I like Steve. I feel like he could have done a little bit more to kind of... He just, like, let things happen, and he's like, after the fact, he's like, it's fine. It's okay. I'm like, nah, that's like, put her foot down a little bit more.
I don't know. I think he was comforting as much as he could be, especially after the mom died. But then, like, once the daughter died, it was like, okay, like, how do I get the family through this? Like, and he's just trying to do the best he can. But...
Yeah. I just think back to, like, when Annie is, like, going off at Peter, and he just lets her tear into him. I'm like...
Well, he's a psychologist, too, which I didn't realize until, like, I was writing up the notes. I was like, oh, I guess that makes sense. He's probably, like, trying to let them have their say. You know?
Then, like, get it out. Yeah, that makes sense, but... Like, ooh.
Because, like, I feel like you have to address it, otherwise that'll come up in, like, a weird way later on, like, and it does, but not in the expected way. Like,
right, yeah. It's just one of those things, like, that's... Yeah, get it out, but, like, maybe let's not do it in that type of way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is very uncomfortable.
Right.
What did you have for atmosphere?
I had a 3. We usually give a lot of flack for locations being basic houses, but this is one heck of a place filled with miniature replicas of moments in their lives there. And as more bad things happen, it feels as if the house grows larger and colder. The deaths are tragic, one right after another, and in your face. Literally one of the worst things to ever happen to a family. How about you?
It's interesting you say that. I gave it a 2. I didn't get quite a 3. And I preface this, I said, while I usually talk about atmosphere in terms of location, Hereditary's atmosphere is thick with grief. The movie mostly takes place at the Graham household, but the trauma endured in the house really permeates throughout the film. So I find it interesting. Like, normally we're like, it's just a house. It's a school. Like, we don't really usually take into consideration the tone, I guess, overall. But, like, for whatever reason, this movie, it just feels like the house just feels bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's a beautiful home. It looks very nice, but, like, something about it, like, I don't know if it's just, like, what happens throughout the film. It, like, transforms the house in a way. Just based on feeling.
And then when we're cutting back and forth to Annie's miniatures of the scenes in the home and stuff like that, too. Like, there was one where she had mentioned, like, a little bit before that when Charlie was born, she didn't want Annie to feed her. And she's showing one of Ellen standing over her bed while she's holding her daughter, like, titty out, like, ready to, and I was like, oh, like, she wanted to feed her, like, with her body. Like, that was like, that's shocking.
Yeah, because, like, she says, oh, my mom, like, wanted to feed her. You thought, like, maybe, like, a bottle, but no. Like,
right.
Like,
yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
And she goes into depth with, like, every aspect of their life, too. It just adds, like, this dark tone to it. She even, like, depicts the accident at one point, and we're like, what? Like, I feel like that's drawing a line.
Yes.
And Steve even comes up and he's like, what if Peter sees this? And she's like, it's just neutral. Look, it's not neutral at all.
I mean, in a way it is. It's just, that's what happened. Like, this is the scene of the accident. There's no, like, good or bad. It's, well, bad in the sense she died, but, like, there was no, like, judgment on the piece. It was just like, this is what happened. But then, no, I get it. I get, like, from a interpersonal communication relationship standpoint, don't do that shit. But she's not wrong. It was just a depiction of the scene of the crime, I guess, or accident.
I guess so, but, like, you knew internally she was blaming him. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, she says it. She's like, you won't take responsibility for anything. But yeah, no, atmosphere that thick with grief, it's suffocating.
Yeah, that's why I found it so tense the first seeing, like, especially just not knowing, and then, like, the jumping out of. I was worried that eventually they would jump out and try to, like, strangle them or something in the shadows as well. That was also bothering me. So when we were flashing back and forth between these horrible scenes. They're also like creeping around in the shadows too. So I was like, there's no time for me to rest.
Mhm.
My heart is just not going to take it anymore.
Yeah. I feel like I would have given this movie or the atmosphere a 3 had the house been a little ugly. I just really liked the house. I think it's really neat.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could get over the trauma that's drenched this house.
I did look it up too that Ari Aster wanted the set to be built with where you could take the ceilings off, like it would be similar to the models that Annie was creating. So I was like, that I have to give credit where credit is due. Like, this is a really cool set piece.
Oh, it's cool. Yeah, this is like, I feel like this is, you think of iconic houses in horror movies. I think this would be up there.
Oh, for sure.
I
The
think
treehouse alone has so much.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think of like Scream, the Mocker house. Like, this is up there for me.
For sure. What did you have for the villain aspect?
I gave villain a 2. I said, I'm really conflicted about the villain. To me, you're only really in danger if you're part of this cult. However, for the Graham family, it feels like they cannot escape the inevitable, which is scary, but the vagueness of the cult and Payman's ultimate goal prevents me from being too terrified of the villain.
Right. I gave it a 2. I said, honestly, this lady's not getting a best grandma mug for Christmas this year. Like, what the fuck, Ellen?
Ellen.
Ellen, what the fuck? Why would you do this?
Money.
Well, that was my whole problem, too. I was like, she literally set up her whole family to die for wealth, and none of them are around to experience it. Like, so what's the point? Like, really only a threat to you personally if the cult needs you dead for some reason, but not sure what the plan is now that they have a demon.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, so now Payman's here. What's the plan?
But they were talking to Peter because Charlie is now like possessing him, and it's also the demon, and they don't even seem to know what's going on. Like if they have to be like, by the way, you're now Peter.
Yeah.
Charlie, like, and I don't know.
Like,
it just seems like they don't even understand the mission either.
Yeah. Right. I feel like if I had a guess, I feel like this is like a very misguided cult. Like, yeah, they know what to do. Like, obviously they achieved the goal, but I don't think they really like thought it through enough to be like, okay, yeah, we got the riches. Because they do show a picture of like Ellen and they're like throwing coins on her or something.
Yeah.
And the one picture. So I think they got the I don't know. It's all very vague, and that's why
maybe once Charlie was born, that's how they got like the wealth and everything. But
that wasn't even correct.
Right,
like, this is not the right body.
Right. Well, it did say in the book it would take the most vulnerable host, so I guess they knew going in it was going to be Charlie, like the baby.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Because she wasn't around for when Peter was born, so I think that was the plan. I also think that what Annie divulges in the support group with her father and her brother dying, that she was trying to do something with them at the time, too.
Yeah, because she mentioned her brother was saying, like, Mom's trying to put something in me. Like, she mentioned that.
And then the dad dying of starvation. Like, who dies of starvation now in modern day? Like,
he just like, I ain't nothing.
Right.
So maybe Peter's body is, like, destined to fizzle out, too. Like, maybe Payman could only, like, be in a body for X amount of time because like
maybe
the mind can't handle it. I don't know. It's weird. And also, speaking of, you just mentioned like Payman takes the most vulnerable. I feel like it took so long to possess Peter. I feel like after Charlie died, that was like a pretty prime opportunity. Like, I don't know why Payman had to possess Annie. And then Annie to possess
transfer.
Peter.
Yeah.
Like,
it just doesn't really make a lot of sense too. Like once his like Charlie's soul is like free and clear, like wouldn't they just go to the proper host?
Right.
I don't know like why all of this sacrifice had to happen beforehand.
Right. Like in my mind, Peter was vulnerable enough. Like I think he's good. I think you could probably infiltrate.
He killed his sister. Like I think that's enough guilt to saddle him with, you know,
right.
to be vulnerable for that. Yeah.
He's primed and ready.
Right.
Because I know, like, the whole, we joked about the whole Steve burning, like what was the point? And I know like the point was to traumatize Annie further to get in her, but I feel like they're good and traumatized. Like I think we're okay. I don't know.
Yeah, it just seemed like, oh, okay, I guess because it just has to be Peter that makes it, so just for this. So that's also like, again, like I was like, I don't get why, like you're doing this for wealth, unless Ellen got wealth out of it just when Charlie was born.
Yeah, she did. So it don't matter. She don't need no money. I don't know.
Because I guess you could take it in turn. Like if Ellen did get money out of Charlie being born and being possessed as payment, then maybe that's why, you know, like Annie is so successful as a miniature artist and stuff like that. Like maybe it kind of like bled down into the family. Like that's why they're, you know, like they have this big house and she's so popular as an artist that are like people are nonstop calling her about getting these projects done, even though they know the most terrible things that happened to her. They're like, by the way, how's it coming?
Yeah, I don't know. We
so
don't
sorry
know.
For your loss. Like,
yeah, we don't really know. Like, yeah, their house is huge, so they have money, but we don't know. Like, was it Steve? Was it her? Like, we don't know.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's just like, I don't know the goal. I don't understand. Like, yeah, you want the money, but beyond that, is that all it is? So
I don't know.
I don't know, Mr. Payman. I don't know what's going on. Did you give Hereditary your extra special point?
I did. I had to give it the point for, like, you know, the depiction of grief. Like, we do really sit in those moments, even though I don't know if I'd, like, watch it as a comfort movie or anything. It's not like Midsommar to me. For some reason, they're very different to me. And, like, I don't know. I could take Midsommar a lot more with, like, the relationship falling apart rather than, like, these terrible, like, family deaths and stuff like that. Because I feel like Midsommar had, like, a nice, like, taking your power back up into interpretation. Like, is she just fully indoctrinated into the cult? Is she taking her power back and getting revenge on them or on him? So I feels like at least there's a choice. In this, it doesn't. And then, like, the most terrible things happen to people the whole time. So
yeah,
and it's gnarly, like gross. Like Midsommar has it too, but I don't know, just a little bit more in your face. How about you? Did you give it the extra point?
I did. As much as I want to be like, no, just because I just really am so disappointed in the ending of this movie. I do have to, on the whole, give it credit because it is very unsettling. It's a hard watch. It's upsetting. So as much as like putting the ending aside, overall, it is a scary movie. So I did have to give it the point.
Yeah. Like, even though I put it on the list just because I was like, I want to like re-experience it and see if I can get through it, I was like, that'll be it. But I was really putting it off, honestly, watching it to the point where I like heard Charlie watching something a little bit more whimsical on his phone or something. I'm like, what are you watching? Like, how can I prolong this even further?
Just get it done. Just watch the movie.
Right.
After totaling up the points, I gave it a 9 and you gave it an 11.
I'm surprised you gave it a 9. I feel like it's definitely up there.
Yeah. I don't know. It's more... Again, I hate to I feel like I said this a lot in the most recent movies. It's more like sad. It's just upsetting. It's a hard watch. It's just not as scary. It's just like, oh my God, these people are just like going through the worst shit. Like on a personal level, it's horrifying, but visually in context, and like, we talked about the villain, like Payman is just not that scary. The cult is pretty bad, but I don't know. It's so grief stricken. I'm just more traumatized by it than scared.
That's fair.
It's hard to kind of articulate the feeling. It's just dread.
Yeah. Agreed. It's definitely trauma inducing.
That's the whole movie. Hereditary, a trauma story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oops, all trauma. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show and listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, giving us a 5-star rating is super helpful and we'll always appreciate it. If you are watching the YouTube version, you could like and comment on this video and let us know what you'd like us to cover next.
You can find us on social media using 13 Degrees of Screams.
This has been 13 Degrees of Screams, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.